Good evening from the Zapata Community Center here in Zapata, Texas. I'm Adolfo Gonzalez Jr., your Master of Ceremonies for this evening. I welcome you to the 2022 Political Forum brought to you by the Zapata County News and Amistad Home Health. I appreciate being invited to this forum. As you all may know, I was a county commissioner here in Zapata County for 10 years. It feels good to be involved and stay connected. I want to thank all the candidates for being here and putting your names on the ballot. It's not easy. It takes courage to put your names on the ballot and hold yourselves out there as someone who wants to lead in our county. We need good leaders. We need people to make the decisions. And I just want to thank you all for stepping up. I want to say a few things about the format. Each candidate will have the opportunity to make their 5-minute opening remarks. Then we're going to have questions for all the candidates. Each candidate will get to answer the same question for their particular race. They will take turns and have 3 minutes to answer with an opportunity for a rebuttal. I want to stress that this is not a debate. It's not a question and answer session with the audience. It's really a discussion with the audience. This is going to be a forum where they are responding to written questions received from the public, giving the candidates a chance to tell you exactly where they stand on various topics. I ask that the audience remain silent. No cheers, applause, boos, hisses, or any distractions that way we all can concentrate on what the candidates have to say. There'll be a noise exception now as we introduce the candidates in order how they are placed on the ballot. We're going to start. Ed Cabrera, District 28, United States Representative, was going to have a letter. Is anybody here? Okay, then we will move on to the second person on the list, which is Victor Avila, Commissioner of the General Land Office.
Good evening. This is on behalf of Victor. My name is Isela Lindquist. Good evening. My name is Victor Avila. I'm a retired ICE special agent running as a conservative outsider to secure the border as your next Texas Land Commissioner. Unlike others in this race, I'm not here to tout endorsements from lobbyists or a record of voting, as I was told, because I'm not a politician. My record is a record of service. When others were giving speeches or attending swanky fundraisers, I was on the front lines at our southern border. Serving as a supervisory special agent, I led a highly trained team of agents to disrupt human trafficking operations and free victims from their captors. I even operated inside Mexico as an official U.S. diplomat, working to secure the border from both sides. While on assignment in Mexico, my partner and I were ambushed by cartel hitmen. I was shot 3 times, and my partner was killed in the line of duty. For most people, that would be enough, but not for me. Now I'm running for the Texas Land Commissioner to continue my fight to secure the border. As Texas Land Commissioner, I will use my expert level of knowledge in border security to build the wall Texas needs the right way. But this isn't just about the border. The General Land Office also oversees veteran benefits in Texas. Unlike anyone else in this race, I know what it means to travel in a foreign land, to take a bullet or 3 for your country, and then come home only to be let down by the government. To me, protecting veterans' benefits is personal. There's no way you can trust more to fight for Texas veterans. In addition to veterans' benefits, the General Land Office also oversees education funding from oil and gas revenues. When career politicians failed Texas by allowing critical race theory into our schools, I joined with other parents in our community to fight back. As Texas Land Commissioner, I will ensure the General Land Office is no longer a rubber stamp, but actually provides much needed oversight to education. But as said, all the money I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't have my glasses. But as I said, all the money comes from oil and gas. Accordingly, Joe Biden has already been defunding Texas schools by blocking drilling in Texas. As the son of 2 legal immigrants from Mexico, I believe the United States should always remain the land of opportunity. I will fight back against Joe Biden's attempts to kill well-playing Texas by not limiting oil and gas production in Texas. If you've been paying attention, you may have noticed all these problems have one thing in common. Career politicians are failing Texas. I am the conservative outsider who needs to disrupt the status quo and get Austin working for Texas again. I hope you will join us in this fight. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we will have Julie Dahlberg for District 21 State Senator.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Dahlberg, and I am a Republican candidate for Texas Senate that covers Zapata. This district covers 16 counties, all the way from Travis County, which is South Austin, and all the way down here, 3 border counties, Webb, Zapata, and Starr. So I'm a Christian and patriot in that order. That means I love God and I love this country, and I know you guys do too. So by trade, I'm a nonprofit development and communications professional, which means that I help nonprofits, charities, develop their plans, do grant writing, fundraising, and help small businesses develop their messaging to do their work. What that also means is that I've spent my career in being a good steward of other people's money. And that's very important in the legislature as lawmakers decide where to spend your tax dollars. Also, I am the vice chair and secretary of my home Republican Party, and that's in Wilson County. I'm also very active in leadership in the Guadalupe County Women's Group, and pretty much all-time volunteer in all local Republican parties in South Texas in this district. It means a great deal to me to promote conservative values, and that's faith, family, and freedom. I know I've spent a lot of time here in Zapata over the last 2 years, 2.5 actually. You may remember that I managed Pastor Frank Pomeroy's campaign in 2020. So ever since that time, the first time I came to Zapata was in this room for the last 4 in 2020. And the more time I spent here, I just really came to love the area and spent a great deal of time here over the summer. And what I hear from folks is that they're ready for a change. You're ready for a change from the same old thing that has kept your community down. And what my platform is, we can talk about a lot of issues that have to do with faith, family, and freedom, pro-life issues, border issues, election integrity. All those things are very, very important. But the most important thing to me is to take career politicians out of the legislature and replace them with regular, everyday people like you and me. What I think happens, and I think you'll agree, is that sometimes when politicians get entrenched in their office, lots of times they get compromised. And so that makes them think of what's best for me in my reelection than you guys. So think about when's the last time you actually had a conversation with your legislator. Probably never. That shouldn't happen. Legislators will make laws for Texas, but they also are to be speaking with you, in your family, at your business, to find out what issues they can address. If it can be addressed by making a law, fine. If not, how can we provide resources to you to address that issue? I will be the type of legislator that you'll get tired of seeing, because I'm going to be in the community, asking you how your business is, wanting to know what the issues are. And I'm also probably going to ask you, how's your mama doing? And how's your grandbabies doing in preschool? And I'm going to care what the answer is. So I hope that you take some time to get to know me a little better. After we get done with this, I'll be at the table over there, and I really would love your questions to get to know me better. And I know that in this area, most folks vote in the Democrat primary. So if you don't intend to vote in the Republican primary, you can't vote for me this time. But I will be on the ballot in the general election in November. And if you have questions about that, I'll be happy to help you with that too. So again, Julie Dahlberg, running for Texas Senate, and I look forward to talking to you. And so also, sorry I put my other hat on now. So currently I manage the campaign of Mike Monreal. He's running for Texas House, which covers Zapata. And he couldn't be here this evening, so I'm gonna read some information about him. He did ask that I give you his apologies. He did have a work project that came up due to the weather, and it got rescheduled, so we couldn't miss that. But here's some information about Mike. Mike is also a Republican. He's running for Texas House District 31, also a legislator. And this is his statement. I'm seeking the Republican nomination for Texas State House District 31, which is currently held by longtime Democrat incumbent Ryan Keegan, who recently switched to Republican. Our country is headed in the wrong direction, and Texas has long been a beacon of hope and strength due to the indomitable Texas spirit and consistent conservative public policy that fosters opportunity and freedom. After redistricting brought Wilson County and Zapata County into House District 31, I felt compelled to continue my service to my community. I firmly believe that after decades of being represented by a Democrat, the citizens of HD 31 are ready for a conservative problem solver who's not running to be a career politician. I also want to ensure that voters have an option to vote for a true conservative Republican that firmly holds their convictions and represents their values. As HD 31 state representative, I'll consistently support and advance conservative solutions that will serve their interests in the state legislature. I'm unapologetically pro-life, Second Amendment. I believe that our southern border should be strong and completely secure. I'll fight to prevent our children from being subjected to divisive subjects and ideologies like critical race theory. I endeavor to uphold the God-given liberties of every Texan and to promote, support, and grow the economy of South Texas. Finally, I will boldly and consistently reject every attempt at federal and state overreach. I've spent my adult life serving my fellow countrymen in South Texas, and I believe that my 28-year military service, business background as an engineer, and lifelong conservative guiding principles make me uniquely qualified to represent our new district. And I'm eager to use my experience for the people of House District 31 in Austin. So that's Mike's statement, and again, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have for Mike as the candidate after we get done speaking. Thank you.
We will move on to Commissioner Olga Elisondo for Zapata County Judge.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for being here. First of all, I want to thank all my family and friends for being here. And also want to thank the Zapata County News and Amistad Home Health for sponsoring this political forum for all state, federal, and local candidates on the ballot in the Zapata County for the March 1st, 2022 primary election. I am Olga Elisondo, and I am running for the office of Zapata County Judge. Tonight will be an event of sharing information, sincerity, positive attitudes, while sharing goals to continue to improve the quality of life of our county with limited resources. You will hear a lot of responses that basically say the same thing. We need to stimulate our economy by attracting more businesses, provide our citizens with appropriate medical facilities and services, and due to the pandemic, ensure that Zapata County continues to stay safe by providing vaccination, multiple testing sites for the community. In meeting with many citizens of Zapata County in the past few weeks, the word that keeps surfacing is change. We are on the right course. However, there's always room for change and improvement. We need to promote more transparency, respectfulness, and open communication among all elected officials and citizens, regardless of political affiliation or views. As I have stated many times, the bottom line is that united, there is little we cannot do. Together, we deliver results of our actions and deeds. Future generations will imitate what they see us doing today. I am Olga Elisondo. I'm a proud candidate for Zapata County Judge. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Zapata County Judge Joe Rathman.
Good evening. My pleasure to join all of you this afternoon, this evening. I certainly also want to thank Karen Westerman, Zapata County News, and Amistad Home Health for sponsoring this event. They seem to sponsor every event, and we're very grateful for their generosity. Also want to acknowledge my family. Thank you for being here with me and supporting me. You've always stood by me through all these years, so I certainly appreciate your support. How many of you know me? You know what I stand for, what I have always stood for. You know my values, my principles, and you know my commitment to this county. Zapata County has always faced adversity, recurrent droughts, hard economic times, but we keep going. We keep working, building, never giving up. That's who we are, and that's who I am. And our resolve has certainly been tested this last decade. Drought affected ranchers, our lake levels fell, impacting our tourism industry, and our natural gas market collapsed, resulting in the loss of good paying jobs and a massive loss of tax revenue for our county government. As judge, it has been my responsibility to address these loss of millions of dollars in revenue and still continue to provide adequate funds for our sheriff's department, our fire department, and all our other county departments, while maintaining the ability to invest in our roads, water and sewer plants, and parks for our children. To that end, I have worked to bring federal and state grants to improve our infrastructure. To date, we have secured funding from all of these agencies: USDA, Texas Department of Agriculture, Texas Water Development Board, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, TxDOT, the Governor's Office, Homeland Security, our HUD, CDBG grants, and FEMA is the latest grant that we have received, among others. The last 2 years, we have faced the additional challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. I fought to get COVID vaccine to the county when the state was delaying its delivery to our citizens. I made call after call to state health officials to speed up delivery of the vaccine to the people of this county. In addition, my office assembled a team led by our beloved Ms. Mary Plattner and our fire department to organize the countywide vaccination effort, including vaccinating our most vulnerable citizens at home. In the next 4 years, I will continue to fight to bring fiscal responsibility to our Commissioners Court. Our future depends on this. Our ability to improve the quality of life in this county, our ability to attract new businesses, and our ability to offer our children and grandchildren a community where they can make their lives here depends on a county government that is responsible. I will fight, alone if I have to make sure that our county has a secure and prosperous future. I will always fight for this county. I love my county, and I love the people, and I respect the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Dora Martinez, District Clerk, couldn't be with us due to an emergency. So we'll move on to the next candidate, Mr. Pedro Pete Morales for Precinct 2 Commissioner.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me in the back? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Or good evening. My name is Pedro Morales, and I have been a lifelong resident of Zapata County. I want to thank everyone involved in making tonight's forum possible. Tonight, I'm here as the Zapata County Commissioner candidate for Precinct 2. This evening, you will hear me talk about plans that I believe can help us move our county in the right direction. I'm a Zapata High School graduate of the class of 1987. I hold a Bachelor's of Science degree in Agricultural Science, a Master's degree in Administration. I have been very fortunate to have a career that I love to work for, that I have for over 29 years. I have worked for the district in many capacities. I started as a teacher in 1992, became an assistant principal of the high school, principal of South Elementary, back to being a principal of high school, and then currently I'm the Services and Operations Director. In this position, I oversee all the district's facilities, custodial services, and the maintenance department, and not to mention the transportation division. I'm currently responsible for managing over 80 Zapata County ISD employees. I'm directly responsible, and also since 1989, I've had the privilege of working in the restaurant industry. For those of you guys that know me, because mostly everyone here, I've been part of the Zapata Pizza Hut team for over 30 years. I started as a cook way back then in '89 and moved my way up to an assistant manager position where I currently oversees the restaurant's daily operations and make sure that we provide great customer service. I plan to use my experience and education to ensure I propose a county government that meets the needs of all Zapata County residents, where I assure you, you will have representation and accountability as to the expenditures of your tax dollars, policy development, and employee management. I commit myself to work closely and tirelessly with all elected officials and community leaders to face our community challenges with honesty and integrity. I commit to an open door policy so that together we can identify areas of need and find solutions to provide a better quality of life in this beautiful county. If entrusted with this opportunity of a lifetime, I will work for what is the best interest of our county in the areas of need. I know that I will be able to move Zapata in a positive direction, and together we can build a shared vision for our future by establishing a government that serves all. I humbly ask for your support to accomplish all these goals and to be given the opportunity to serve the good people of Zapata County and prove to you that I am the right man for the job. Pedro Morales, Zapata County Commissioner, Precinct 2 candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next have Mr. Robert Garza, County Commissioner, Precinct 4.
Greetings, Zapata County. I, Roberto Garza, am truly honored to come forth to declare my candidacy for Zapata County Commissioner, Precinct 4. I am excited for an opportunity to partake in transformation, growth, prosperity of Zapata. As a long-life resident, my core memories and experiences have been created here. It is here where I learned about the importance of faith, unity, and family. It is where I was taught about the significance of quality of life, the sense of worth, by being of service to others. It is where I have become a man of integrity, honesty, and ambition. To outsiders, Zapata is a small town between here and there. A border town, as most would say and suggest. To my family and I, it is home. My wife, Liz Garza, and I kept our roots planted and decided to fulfill our lives here. We have 3 beautiful children, Olga, Elisa, and RJ, and have been blessed by having them experience the community we grew up in. Involvement in the community has been influential to us as we know the power a small town possesses. Personally, I've shared my time in participating in church groups, coaching Little League teams, youth programs, and other events to lead by example for my children. At a young age, I witnessed the struggles and challenges my parents endured to secure a better life. It was amazing to watch them achieve a unified goal that took leadership, courage, and discipline. Together, they created Junior Shreven and Meat Market, which taught me valuable lessons that I will forever be in debt for. One of the main things they ingrained within me is that without people, without each other, we will never be sustainable. It was the adversity my parents, Felipe and Elia Garza, overcame that allowed me to attend college so that I would enrich my life for the future that was beyond their circumstances. I received a Bachelor in Business Administration and Accounting in Texas A&M Kinsville. By pure choice and desire, I wanted to be involved in my parents' business. I had been stocking inventory for free since the age of 11. But upon receiving my degree, I became officially employed. For the past 20 years, I have successfully managed and improved the business that was simply built out of a dream. My family story isn't anything special, but what is special is that no matter who you are and where you're from, the path is always forward. We are here in trying times as a society, so let our town be an example of where we can go with positive action. As I seek to become the commissioner for Zapata County Precinct 4, be assured that this position wouldn't just be for me, it'd be for us. It'd be to be lent us as a community to improve our town using the power of our voices. I will stand as a representative and uphold responsibilities of overseeing the county's interests at a state level and federal level, participating in long-range planning and managing the county's budgets and finances. I am confident that with my knowledge, education, and experience, this qualifies me for the role. Upon talking and discussing the current issues with the residents that live in Precinct 4, these were at the top of the list: improper neighborhood lighting, flooding, road hazards, pile-up trash, animal control, and no youth development programs for the youth. To combat these matters, I will identify affordable and innovative funding strategies for protection of public safety and health through the use of government resources. I will discover programs for the youth so they are educated and prepared for the adverse society we currently live in. We must offer them the opportunities today so they will have a prosperous tomorrow. If given the opportunity, I promise to work diligently in strengthening our ties so that we may overcome their challenges together. Citizens of Zapata County and Precinct 4, let us unite and begin the hard work together. Let us set standards higher. Let's be the generation that fights with intention and purpose. I humbly ask for your vote and support in this election. Thank you, Roberto Garza.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. We'll next have Mr. Juan Vela for Precinct 1, Justice of the Peace.
ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juan Manuel Vela. I'm the second of 8 siblings in my family. My father's name was Emiliano Vela. My mother's name was Ella Barrera Vela. And being the oldest of the 6 boys that are really between 2 girls, guess what the big secret was to that? Give them a work ethic responsibility. Without work, he said, you guys will never amount to anything. So he got everybody had to work at home. I've done jobs for so many people that most 50% of the audience here knows who I am, but there's another 50% that are too young to know. I was a teacher for our county judge, I was a teacher for Mr. Morales, and I've been a teacher for him too. And well, I can say this for everybody. I was at it for 32 years. But going back to my education, I found out real quickly that hard work meant that I had to do something different to that, because it was hard work. From the time I was a kid, I'd shine shoes. We used to sell waffle grass seed, and then we elevated to better. I was a migrant worker, and then after I found out what it was all about, I said, no, I need to go to school. And that's exactly what I did. And so I took a bachelor's and master's degree from Texas A&I in agriculture ed, just like Mr. Morales did, except that he went into administration. He was smarter than I was on the second phase of it. And I stick with it. But I really enjoyed it. I'm married to Ophelia Avila. I have 4 kids, and I love Zapata so much that I even married Zapata. Her name is Ophelia Zapata Vela. So I thought I'd let you know about that. Zapata County is where I was born and raised. It is where I have made my forever home. Very early in my life, I knew having a connection to my community was important to me. I did some of the formal teaching. Fortunately, my career choice as a school educator allowed me to get involved in my community. It allowed me to make contacts with my fellow citizens and make long-lasting friendships. I have been a public servant for 30 years and have dealt with a broad spectrum of people. After retirement, I went to work for an old company as a permit agent, and that gave me a little bit more leverage on how to deal with people, because I was used to dealing with students, and it's not the same. When you deal with adults, it's a different scenario. So after dealing with this as a permit agent, I feel I learned enough to learn about personalities, about the way people look at different spectrums of life. And so if you ask why do you feel that you're the best person for this job, I would have to say that because of my experience as an educator, and it allowed me to communicate using many different approaches and outlooks with fellow educators, administrators, and students and parents. I worked as a land agent, and this also provided me a little bit more knowledge about things that go in the areas of partitions and things of that nature, which sometimes comes in real handy. I lost my father when I was in my early 20s, and it was right at the time. I lost him in '78, but at that time, the boom had started to come in, so for the first time, my parents got to see a little bit of profit in the ranching business, because ranching has always been a poor man's job. You know, you survive, you get by, but it doesn't provide the luxuries that production wells we give you. So, so when all that was happening, my dad passed away. I had to improvise, taking care not only of my immediate family, but my extended family, and so you can imagine it was very, very hectic for me. But in either case, I feel that this was a very significant factor in making my life and molding me into the man I had become. And I just feel that I could do a good job. I will be able to do a good job as a justice of the peace. That's all I have for you. And well, one other thing that, as a justice of the peace, this is the fourth thing that I want to emphasize more, and that would be having an open policy as far as answering my telephone when it rings, unless something physically or something real bad has gone with me, but I will try to comply, will comply with whatever the job demands from me. And I will try to, I will do my job as far as treating everybody fairly, equally, and naturally be accessible to whoever needs me, whether it be people from different agencies from the county, or anybody else that has the need for justice of the peace at the time. If it's for an inquest, if it's for misdemeanors, activities that happen, and I will attend to these things if given the opportunity. That's all I have for you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will next have Ms. Erica Boya.
Good evening, Zapata residents, friends, and family. My name is Erica Yvette Cuellar, and I am a proud mom of 5 boys, Horacio III, Mario, Arnoldo, Cesar, and Tomas Cuellar. I was fortunate enough to have married my high school sweetheart, Horacio I. Cuellar Jr. It is because of these lives and the lives of the residents of Zapata County that I humbly ask for your vote for Precinct 1 Justice of the Peace. My roots are in Zapata County. I have lived here most of my life, and I have been a resident of Precinct 1 for over 15 years. My roots are one of my favorite artists I grew up listening to is a woman that stressed the following words, as she said, "You can't sit there and wait for people to give you the golden dream. You have to get out there and make it happen for yourself." Diana Ross. I grew up learning that hard work is the key to succeed in life. Having hardworking parents and being around family with working values and education in mind have taught me to persevere. I have always learned that experience does matter, but I can attest to taking action and learning will pave the road for me to achieve my goal of a servant leader for Zapata County and my Precinct 1 constituents. My heart is in the children that will eventually be our next leaders. I want to be Justice of the Peace to guide them, understand them, and help them and their parents. I will always be available to fulfill my duties. I will put my heart and my time into state and local trainings. As the world changes and the torch is passed on to the millennials, it is imperative that I learn, continue learning, and be an active participant of this group that lives in the world of technology, and the belief that a changing world merits for people to change with it and consider different points of view. The best teaching I have had is growing up in this community and understanding our culture, our needs, and our problems. Together we can make the difference. Zapata County, I will commit to you, to the constituents of Zapata County, and the voters of Precinct 1. Let's take this journey together for the betterment of our community, our systems, and most of all, our children. I once again, with an open heart, open mind, and open soul, ask for your vote on March 1st, 2022, or during early voting that starts February 14th, 2022. With this, I say thank you for being here, and God bless.
Thank you, Victoria. Okay, we will now start with the questions. Karen, let's have a round of applause for all the candidates up here. Thank you. All right, I guess this is for the county judge's race. Who makes the budget? And Judge Rathman, would you like to begin with that?
Who makes the budget? The primary function of a county judge is to prepare a budget for all the departments every year. How is that done? So there's a process. Every year, before April 30th, the appraisal district, the chief appraiser, presents a preliminary budget or preliminary value of all the property in Zapata County, whether it be mineral or real property. So the chief appraiser, before that deadline, will submit a, not a final value, but a preliminary value. So from those values, I sit down and analyze how much it's dropped, how much the values have gone up. From that point, I'll visit with other department heads, other elected officials, and try to formulate a budget using those values, even though they're not the final numbers. They're usually pretty well within the margin of error, but not always. And by July 30th, I filed a proposed budget in the county clerk's office using those numbers. After up to July 30th, that's when the final values of the county are submitted by the chief appraiser, and then I will prepare a final budget to file with the county clerk and then present it to Commissioner's Court for their approval. The final budget must be voted on by the Commissioner's Court by September 30th, and the fiscal year begins October 1st. Given that I've been there since 2011, I have filed and proposed numerous budgets, 11 to be correct. During that time, I have made every effort to file a budget that is within reason, that our taxpayers can afford. During that time, I have not proposed raising taxes to our property taxpayers, even though the majority of our tax base had eroded when I took office because of the natural gas production not being there. When I say that is, before I took office, there were some golden years in 2007 to 2010. There was a lot of production in the county. So the mineral production value of those wells equal to $2.5 billion in value. Real property all over the county values is about $1 billion. For every house, every property is $1 billion. So most of our revenues were coming from oil and natural gas production. Because we lost that, we had to reevaluate how we were going to budget salaries, employees. We worked extremely hard during the first 5-6 years to make sure that we would reduce our workforce to be able to keep the county in good standing. I was able to accomplish that with the help of commissioners. I think one thing that I can say that during all my time as county judge and all the budgets I have filed for approval, there has never been one time the courts, of course, the final approval is up to the commissioner's court. There never has been one time that the commissioners on the court would state that, you know what, Judge, your budget is too high, we need to cut expenses. It seems every time it has been after I file a budget, and this year was no different. Every time I file a budget, the commissioners come in and add even more spending to the budget, which is putting us in a precarious position of moving forward because we can't tax the local property values like we had when we had natural gas production. I think there was one recent development that has helped tremendously, and it did help us this year, where the 2 wind farms that you have seen came into our county. We negotiated abatements, and what does that mean is tax breaks with these companies. These farms exist throughout South Texas, and every county around us had them before we did, and they all agreed to give them a tax break to bring in this huge investments by these companies. So each project has a value of over $200 million, and we negotiated abatements, but with these abatements we also negotiated them to be good corporate neighbors, good corporate sponsors. I was at the forefront of trying to make sure that for the 10 years that these companies will receive an abatement, that they contribute to our local youth in the form of scholarships, and to our local youth in the form of payments to the county fair, which is $50,000 a year to scholarships, $50,000 a year to our local county fair project exhibitors, $50,000 a year to our Boys and Girls Club. And then we have, of course, we wanted them to contribute to our chamber to make sure that we bring in more fishing tournaments, to bring in more visitors into our community. So that has been a windfall for the county. And even with the abatement, the property tax values payments that will come in this year, this will be the first year that these payments will be made, will generate over $1 million into the county's coffers. So I don't know, I went a little bit over my time, but technically the county judge is the person who formulates a budget, gets these values from the appraisal district, make sure that he can make sure that the tax rate that we're within the above. Well, there's been changes to the law, especially this year. So they used to call that the rollback rate. Now it's the voter approval rate. As a county, we cannot raise revenues or taxes more than 3% from the previous year. So you have to be very cognizant of what goes on through the process. I'm very familiar with the process. I've been doing it for 10, 11 years. And during all this time of declining revenues, declining values, I have been able to maintain a fund balance that is very necessary for the county to have. And this fund balance is for emergencies, and I am very adamant that we spend with the revenues that only come in and not deplete that fund balance to near zero, or not have a fund balance alone, because emergencies do come up, and because of the changes in law, counties are no longer able to go to a bank or issue certificates of obligation to request lending monies. Now we have to go to the voters, so it's more time consuming, and certainly voters most times are not in the opinion of approving any more spending. So it's very important that the county keep the fund balance that we currently have.
Thank you, Judge.
Question?
The question was, who's responsible for the budget?
Okay,
Who
well,
makes the budget?
Okay, well, like y'all heard, the judge, the judge is the one that is the presiding, that does the budget. The only thing that I would do different, or I think we do it, but the only thing I can say about the budget is that I think we should have more public hearings and more budget workshops and public hearings, so the public will know what's happening with the budget. But I know, like the judge said, he basically said everything. That's what the judge does, and that's what I want to do for you. Giving the opportunity, I will work hard to learn how to do this, and I know it takes a lot of work, but no, como dice, nadie nace aprendiendo, and I'm willing to work. And I've always said the judge, he does his job, he does a good job, and I want to thank him for that. Thank you. But I just want the opportunity to do what he does. And but yes, that's what the judge does. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Okay, this is the next question. Is also for the judge. This time we'll start with Commissioner Elisondo. What is the current property tax base today compared to when you took office?
Wow. Preguntas que me van a preguntar. Okay, well, honestly, I know that the tax rate is 0.924, and the tax base, what does that mean? Where are we? I don't know. I think that question would be for the judge. I think it would be better to answer that question.
Okay, all right. So
Yes.
you want to
So
answer
Judge,
that?
thank you.
Judge Rathman, what is the current property tax base today compared to when you took office?
I took office in 2011. Our current tax base is a little over $1 billion. I think it's 1.1 billion. Most of it is real property, the homes, the ranches. We're down to about 100 million in mineral values from a high of 2.5 billion. And if you do the arithmetic with our current tax rate, is 93 cents. For every 100 million in value, the county would generate about $1 million in revenue. So we've lost $20 million over the years in tax revenues from our minerals. So the tax base when I took office was a little over $2 billion, $2.5 billion. Our tax base currently is 1.2. With the tax rate, which is the percentage that we charge to taxpayers, has remained the same in our main fund, which is the general fund, at 63 cents. And those 63 cents, 11 years ago, would generate close to $20 million. This year, well, it generated $16.5 million. This year, those 63 cents generate a little over $6.5 million. So we've lost about $10.5 million in value and revenue over that same period, going on just the property taxes. And certainly, as judge, nobody's going to feel sorry for us when you're losing values on a yearly basis. I think I took the initiative of looking, and for a county to bring in revenues, it's rather limited. There's limited sources of revenue, but I looked into what exactly we could bring our resources, revenues, other than from the property tax, which I didn't feel that natural gas would be coming back soon, and it hasn't. So I put an amendment forward to the voters early on in 2012 to consider voting on a sales tax that will help our community offset some of our losses in property taxes. And certainly, as a resident of having a local sales tax, the thought of it was not a high priority because we had so much mineral production in previous administrations. But I saw it as an opportunity. We do receive a lot of visitors from out of town, and I saw it, and they do purchase at all our grocery stores, at restaurants, and I saw it as an opportunity for them to help us regain some of our lost revenues, and it has been very productive. Thanks to the voters of Zapata County. It was an initiative an amendment that had to be voted on by the voters. They approved it, and since then, that sales tax is generating a little over $2 million a year to the county, and it's certainly helping out, making the deficit that we have lost because of the loss of natural gas production. We also had numerous amusement redemption machines, maquinitas, in our community. When I took office, there was no control over them. They did not contribute to our local tax base, to our local economy whatsoever. I placed it before the court to pass an ordinance, an approved ordinance, requiring them to register their machines and pay a permit fee for those machines if they want to operate in Zapata County. Since then, that has generated millions of dollars to the county. This year, we're expected to generate over $1 million, and at no point does the county condone illegal gambling. What we're saying is, if you want those permits are legal, the machines are legal, you want to have them in our county, these are the rules. So every machine that is in our county pays a $1,000 yearly permit fee, and that has certainly helped also in offsetting some of our losses, because the demand for services does not decline or go down just because you have loss in revenue. People still expect services. They still expect the sheriff's department, our emergency services to respond. We did cut back, and mainly through attrition over those years. When I took office, we had over 400 employees. We're down to 260. We're a much leaner county government. All the services are still being provided to our community, and we still have money in the bank. And I think it's something that was difficult, but we're there. And
thank you, Judge. And stay right there, Judge. What qualifications do you have to fill this position?
I think, and of course, when I ran for this position, certainly didn't have the experience, and I think everyone is entitled to seek an office, whether you have experience or not. I think my qualifications now is of course, I have the experience of running this office, running the departments during difficult times, and still being able to manage. I rest on my education. I have a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Texas that is very helpful in building and proposing the budgets, knowing the formulas, the rates, reading the laws, what is necessary. So I feel my education and my experience, and just my love of Zapata County. My father was a county judge in the 70s and 80s. He set a very high standard for me to follow, and I'm trying to do my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. The same question, what qualifications do you have to fill this position?
Well, thank you. That's an easier question for me. I think that, like the judge said, I don't think there's really any kind of qualification that says that we can run or not run. I think that if we have the heart to want to learn and be here, and I'm proud of all of us that we're here, because it takes a lot to be up here and know that sometimes we're not going to be able to answer some of the questions, or it's just very nerve-wracking to be up here. It's pressuring to be up here, knowing that you don't know what kind of question they're going to throw at you. But qualifications, mine, well, I've always been a volunteer, a community servant. I started in school as PTO, catechist, a catechist, CCD teacher. I did Little League, and I've always just been a community servant. So I think that is one of the qualifications that I possess, that I like to be out there with the community. And that's what I want to do for Zapata County. I want to be out there and learn what I have to learn inside the office. Like I said, it takes a lot to know what the judge knows. He's been there a long time, and I commend him because he knows a lot. And like I say, but that is something that I want to learn. And I hope I'm giving the opportunity to be able to learn and know what he knows. And I know that I can learn because this is something that I love and I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Judge, yes.
If it's numbers, I'm not answering.
Okay. What current projects or funding has the county received during your administration?
What kind of funding
What
projects?
current projects or funding?
Well, some of the current fundings that I am aware of as a county commissioner that represents Precinct 2, I know that we worked really hard to get a grant for a park in Miraflores. And that is one of the projects that I'm actually working on together with the county judge and the other commissioners. And I know we also have the grant that we got for the golf course. And there's many other projects, USDA, we're working on having a lot of those monies that are coming in for the 62 and over, those are $10,000 grants also. And a lot of funding also like for the water plant in Siesta Shores. We've had several, and I'm proud to say that for me, the one that I'm really looking forward to is the Miraflores Park, because I've really been working really hard for that together with the judge and the commissioner. So those are one of the projects that we've been working on.
Thank you, Commissioner. What current projects or funding has the county received during your administration?
In my opening remarks, I noticed that and voiced all the agencies that we are getting funding from. I'll try to remember all of them. My office has been, I think, trying for some time now to bring special funding for projects. Start off the bat on border security. We applied for and we have received funding from the governor's office. The announcement should be coming next week or so, but the application is for $4 million for the Sheriff's Department, County Attorney, County Judge's Office, and the clerks to assist the governor's initiative in border security. We applied for and received a $1 million grant from USDA, from TDA, Texas Department of Agriculture, Colonia Grant Fund, for $1 million for a new water storage tank near the pavilion area. We identified that area that had lower water pressure than the rest of the town side, so we were approved for a new elevated storage tank there. And included in that $1 million grant will be drainage improvements to Precinct 1 and 4, mainly in the Medina Addition area. Also another grant that was announced by Congressman Cuellar, and I have been requesting monies for our fire department and emergency operations center. We have received a funding for $1 million that construction will begin soon through FEMA for $1 million emergency operations center. We participate in HUD funding, CDBG, those are community development block grants. We will be paving streets in Falcon Mesa in the very near future, Crane and Cardinal Streets in Precinct 3. We've got grant funding from TxDOT through the search program, which means that because it's a statewide initiative with TxDOT, counties that have oil and gas production, those companies tend to tear up county roads. So the state legislature have approved funding depending on the severance taxes that each county pays. So our county will be receiving about $200,000 for street improvements. We also have a grant to Congressman Cuellar and USDA for broadband for the rural areas of our county. which is mainly San Ignacio, toward Bustamante. All those rural areas will have broadband capabilities. It's a $5 million grant that will be implemented in the very near future. We've got, of course, the Commissioner mentioned Parks and Wildlife funded us $750,000 for the golf course. So the golf course was something that the court approved. The previous owners had been operating the golf course for more than 30 years, and they wanted a buyer for that golf course. It's 122 acres, with 80 acres of it being the golf course. Given the financial situation of the county, we told Mr. Ramirez, the owners, that the county was not in a position to buy it outright for the asking price. But if we received grant funding, then it's something that, as a quality of life issue, we would be interested in pursuing. So we did apply for a grant for Texas Parks and Wildlife, and we were awarded $750,000. It'll equal more than half the price of the purchase price, which is $1.35 million for 122 acres in the middle of town. That'll allow the county to have a golf course, walking trails for the public, and just a nice area for the quality of life for our citizens to enjoy. Also, it allows our high school students and junior high students to have a way to have a golf team. So they earn scholarships on a yearly basis from them. So those are some of the grants I'm trying to remember, but there is a slew. We have been active, we have been applying, and and we did receive COVID relief funding. We've got $1.2 million that will be used to renovate the remaining 4 standpipes in our community. So that project will be seen in the very near future. So we've been very active with limited resources, and all those grants funneled through my office. So I am very fortunate. I have 2 assistants, and one of them is here in the audience. I am so very fortunate that these young ladies work extremely hard to make sure that the services that our citizens deserve and respect are met. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. And we'll start with you, Judge.
Okay.
What benefits have you seen from the wind farm projects? And I think you touched upon it.
Yeah, of course, I mentioned the wind farms. There's 2 projects. Initially, the county was approached a little over 5 years ago about the possibility of wind energy coming into our county, providing a tax benefit and providing benefits to the landowners of our county. I think these companies started openly leasing during that period. I think the majority of landowners in our community leased their lands for possible projects. The county, we approved 4 projects, 2 of them which have been realized. Only 2 have been built. They generate, like I mentioned, 10 years worth of monies for our kids' organizations, which is $125,000 per year per project, so $250,000 per year, besides the tax revenue that they're providing, which this year was a little over $1 million that came into the county because of those 2 projects. There's been some discussions during the campaign. I've heard citizens come toward me and ask me, hey, but your family got some turbines. And I say, yes, our family have been ranchers for all our lives. Our family decided to lease our lands as a way to make sure that we could keep them in our family for future generations, keep them together. So we entered into wind leases. When the time for abatements or voting on those particular projects, one of them ended up being constructed on some of our land. We had 25% of the land for the project, and we ended up with 25% of the wind turbines. I certainly filed a conflict of interest statement in the county clerks, and I abstained from any voting on that particular project. But they have been very beneficial to our county. There is still some interest in bringing the other 2 projects online. And, you know, it certainly changes the landscape, but I think as ranchers, and as Mr. Vela mentioned, that ranching is a tough business. And so as ranchers, we look at any way we can try to keep those lands in our family. And so it does provide an opportunity for ranchers to make some income and help with the ranching business.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Elisondo, what benefits have you seen from the wind farms project?
What benefits have I seen with the wind farm projects? Well, right now, I really haven't seen many benefits, but like the judge says, they're coming in, money will be coming in. I know when I came in the first year as a county commissioner, some wind farm people approached us, and I guess that we didn't give them the tax abatement back then. I know that one of the things that was discussed was that it wasn't fair for other companies not to get a tax abatement. But later on, they came back and they asked for a tax abatement, and here they are. How are we benefiting? Well, I know that some of the organizations in Zapata are getting some of the monies, and that is something really good. If an organization is getting money, I think Boys and Girls Club is getting money, Chamber of Commerce. I think there's 3 or 4 that are getting monies from those wind farms. So I guess they'll probably benefit as money's coming in. So they are a benefit, and but I haven't seen it yet, but hopefully later on, whenever the abatement is like in 10 years, we'll probably see more money. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Since there are no more written questions, we're going to go to the public. There might be some people that would want to ask some questions. We've got other candidates here on the stage. Does anybody have any questions that they would want to have for a particular office? This is your time to ask a question. Shivasta, do you have a question? Mr. Valendas, who would you address a question to?
These questions would be addressed to each and every one of you in regards to certain issues that I wrote down in a piece of paper. What are the most important issues that the county of Zapata faces today, and what is to be done? Okay? One of the issues that I wrote down in a piece of paper for you all is the medical aid. The issue of medical service, like you just mentioned a few minutes ago, and it's written down on the newspaper where it says that we have 2 or 3 facilities here in Zapata, and none of them are really doing the service that they're supposed to be doing. One is the Gateway, the other one is what used to be named the 24-hour minor emergency clinic. I worked in the fire department for 25 years or 40 years. And we had an average of 3 to 4 transfers to Laredo with what's supposed to have been emergency calls. Nowadays, they're making 10 or 15 calls or transfers every day to Laredo. Why? Because we don't have an appropriate medical facility. That's one of the issues. That's why we don't have enough snowbirds, what we used to call them snowbirds, that used to be coming in here for the lake, to fish and enjoy themselves, where we had this golf course also, where they used to spend their time playing out there, and now we don't. So I'm asking each and every one of you out there what is to be done for this thing. Judge Rathman also mentioned the issue of the water. We're referring to the lake. There's no water in this lake, and here we have our county, what do you call it? Henry Cuellar trying to build another dam for their purpose. And here we are, we don't have no water whatsoever. What are you all planning to do in regards to this issue? It also involves the golf course, it also involves tournaments, fishing tournaments, or other events that the so-called snowbirds used to come for. The other issue is
let's start off with your first question. It's about medical care, correct?
Yeah.
That is your first question, so that way we can ask, you wanted to ask all the candidates?
Fine, go ahead.
Commissioner Elisondo, what it is that you would do to try to get health care for Zapata County?
Well, I know healthcare is a big issue that I've always hear about, everybody asking about the healthcare issue in Zapata. I know we used to have a great 24-hour clinic back years. And I think that the thing that we need to do right now is focus on the fire department, because that is our 24-hour clinic for right now. That's our call, our 911 call, which goes to the fire department. So I think the fire department needs a better facility, better ambulance, and better equipment. I know that they have better, good equipment right now, but I think we can do better with our facility. Like the judge was saying, that there's monies that are coming in. So I think we need to focus right now also on the fire department so we can continue having those necessary health people to provide the necessary emergency when we need it. But the health providers, a health clinic, a 24-hour clinic, yes, I think we do really need one, and I hope that hopefully in the near future we can work on that, Mr. Asta. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know you all are running for justice of the peace, but if you have, there's something you want to say about it?
The only thing I would say is that yes, we do need an emergency clinic, and as a servant of the community, if there was anything that I could do to enforce it or to encourage it to be brought to our community, I would be there to back it up 100%.
Thank you, Ms. Cuellar. Mr. Vela?
Pretty much feel the same way she does. I wish we had better source of income to be able to provide all the services to the people. But unfortunately, things are tight. But there's got to be a way, maybe through grants, federal grants, to be able to provide that kind of service for us.
Thank you, Mr. Vela. Mr. Larsa?
As a newcomer here, everybody would want a clinic, a 24-hour clinic. It's always been needed. The only thing I could say is working collaborative with, outer cities like Laredo, Rio Grande, Roma, and just talk to other commissioners, what have you been doing? What can we do? What grants are available? So our community can strive for health care for our community. And like they were mentioning, there is grants for the fire department coming in, and like Ms. Olga was saying, that's our go-to right now, because the 24-hour clinic that we currently have, closes at a certain time, and we always need our community to have health people serving us. That's what basically I can come up with.
Thank you, Mr. Larsa. Judge?
Yes, the status of our emergency health care is, just like many other parts of rural Texas, rural America, is lacking, of course. The current clinic, the current agreement we have with LMC, the Zapata County Clinic, we are fortunate to have two other clinics, Zapata Primary Care and Gateway. We've got several pediatric clinics, which if you visit other small communities, I think we're ahead of the game. We're not where we want to be. The 24-hour clinic. So the county, by the state, or by state law, is required to set aside 8% of general tax revenues, property revenues, for indigent health care. So that 8%, when we had a lot of natural gas production, would generate about $2 million. So currently, that 8% generates a little less than $500,000. Back in 2011, 2012, we entered into an agreement with LMC, and we still had pretty sizable revenues that the Commissioners Court voted to allocate the entire 8% into a program with federal funding, matching funds. That was called the 1115 waiver. It's still in existence today. So those $2 million would generate matching funds of $1.50 for every dollar that the county would send to the state of Texas. And that was enough to operate a 24-hour clinic during that time. As our revenues decreased with time, like I said, we're down to $500,000. We're still allocating the entire amount. Because what we're saying, what the agreement we have with LMC is saying, okay, take care of our most needy, the indigent, but also we want to offer more to the rest of the citizens of our county. And that $500,000 will generate at $1.50 another $750,000. So at $1.25 million, the volume of patients that LMC is seeing at that clinic was not sufficient to operate a 24-hour clinic. Does it sit well with all of us? Of course not. We want a 24-hour clinic. I've reached out to owners and operators of those standalone clinics that you see mainly in suburban areas around San Antonio and Laredo. They have the stat clinics. And I asked some of the owners there, why not bring those clinics, that same type of environment to rural parts of Texas? And it comes down to those clinics by law can only take cash and insurance payments. They do not take Medicare and Medicaid. So my next step was reaching out to our congressmen and our state senators and our state reps to maybe we can change the law to help rural parts of the country and Texas to allow these clinics and make them an incentive to them to say, you know what, now if we're able to treat Medicare patients and Medicaid patients, they said that if the law was changed, they would be interested in coming to rural parts of Texas. That is our best hope to getting a 24-hour clinic, other than creating a hospital district, increasing taxes substantially on the local population. That I hear it every day about taxes and how difficult it is for all of us to pay taxes. So there are no easy solutions. But I think a change in the law will allow us the opportunity to maybe entice, and the county, we could also offer incentives to those companies, entice them to come to Zapata and operate a 24-hour clinic. But it comes down to funding.
As when we talk about healthcare, it's just like everything. We said, what are we going to do? Well, we need to come together as a community, come up with plans. How is it that here in the near future, like for us, if once elected, we're here for 4 years. What are our plans for 2 years from now, 4 years from now, and down the road? So as me coming as a commissioner, getting the help from all elected officials, coming up with goals. Where do we want our healthcare to be 2 years from now, a year from now? We need to have SMART goals. What do I mean by SMART? I'm tying it back to my education, right? SMART goals. What specific goal? What is it that we need to do to make sure that we bring this 24-hour care to Zapata? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Okay? Everything has to be tied into the budget. We can talk about having all the different programs, but can we financially support it? If we cannot, what is it that we can do as a community to fix our budget or look at our budget so that make sure that we do attain that measurement, to make sure that we have that 24-hour clinic here in Zapata, right? So, is it time sensitive? Of course it's time sensitive, okay? Because it's important that we have, because it's not fair that, like you said, well, we go to this clinic and then once we get out, we have to go back to our doctor in Laredo. Why? Because we don't have the services here. But I know that we have a lot of people here in Zapata that can come together and create plans for, I know that we could one day have a very successful clinic or healthcare system here in Zapata in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Well, I was going to say first I need to understand and research what the barriers have been, but you explained that so very clearly, and so this is a situation where something very simple could be fixed in the law, and you did mention federal law and state law. I'm not sure exactly where that lies, but if it's a state law, then I'm your girl, so let's fix it. Yeah.
Do we have anybody else from the public that would like to ask any questions to the candidates? Yes. Okay.
Want to read it? Yes. It's for everybody except for Olga. He's already in office. So
All right. Okay. I guess we'll start at that end now. This question is for everybody except you, Judge. Okay. What do you plan to do different than what the incumbent is doing now?
I'm so glad I got this question. What I see the incumbent Senator Zaffarini doing, and I'll give you an example of this last legislative session, is that to me, she's going along the lines of a lot of other Democrat office holders who are intentionally trying to separate us by race, for one. To try and point out how different we are as opposed to how the same we are. We all have the same concerns as citizens of Texas. We all have the same concerns as citizens of the United States. We care about our families being safe. We care about our kids not being indoctrinated. And let me tell you, you guys know, you start coming after our kids, we're coming out, right? That's what is a stark thing to me that I can't stand. Too many times we hear, for example, in the last legislative session when we're talking about the election integrity bill, Mrs. Zaffarini opposed it and claimed that the bill authorizes poll watchers to harass people of, I'm using air quotes, people of color. That's preposterous. The laws applied across to all people. And my only question is, so I'm sure there are some folks who are poll watchers that happen to be whatever people of color means. So what do they do? And just to assume that work ethic and that character of folks just because they don't agree with the law, it's just another step of how lots of folks in our elected offices try to divide us. And I'm not one that respects those kind of labels. And so you'll never hear me classify folks as pick a color or whatever it is based on the heritage. We all have our own backgrounds that are worth celebrating. That doesn't mean it divides us as the people as we live together as Texans and Americans. So that's what I would do different.
Question is, what do you plan to do different than what the incumbent is doing now?
Okay, different, maybe not different, but keep on with what they're currently doing. Ms. Elisondo has been doing a great job in Precinct 2. I know, like you said, they have that facility for our youth that is coming up, that recreational facility. Also making sure that we keep those kids off the streets, making sure that the facilities are there. Not only that, coming back to medical care, that's going to be one of the things that we're going to be focusing on, hopefully, here in the near future, making sure that we provide the best services to Zapata, Precinct 2, and Zapata County, not just Precinct 2.
I'll repeat the question for you. What do you plan to do different than what the incumbent is doing now?
Okay, that question, as of right now, well, the commissioner that's currently there, he's retiring, so, it's up for grabs for anybody. One of the changes that I feel that this community needs is we need to be united, we need to be together, because, if you're not together, nothing will ever get done. Anything can be, rolled out there, but if the community is not willing to change, well, it's never going to change. We need to be somebody that's united. And I know, like, building collaborative partnerships would be a great way to initiate the leadership. We can work with outside communities. Everybody wants our communities to be safe from violence and illnesses, and we want everything to work well. We would like to have people who care for us and someone who we can trust. My belief is that communities are built when people work together on things that matter the most to them. And a program that's out there right now for as far as like the youth, there's one that's called the Texas AgriLife, and it's, I guess, equipped with it's youth ambassadors, and it works with school. That program, I believe, is a good program to, get the kids educated enough for real world life. And I was invited with that program to give like little, what's it called? It's was invited by Mr. Jesse Rodriguez and Sammy Luera, and it was called the program was for the path to the plate. And basically what they did is they talked about the animals, on what types of animals there are, and then from there they went ahead and I gave a presentation on what types of meat, their cuts, their, select, choice, premium, and then at the end of the program, the kids got to grill their own steak. At that point, some didn't even know how to turn on a barbecue pit. So we need to teach our kids, because they're our future. So the more we have youth programs for them, I believe we'll achieve, the main goal. Thank you.
What would you do different than what the current incumbent is doing in office?
Okay, first of all, accessibility. I'd like to see for the present JP to be a little bit more active. I'd like to have better, sort of like an open door policy at the location assigned, where the hours will be honored, the schedule will be honored, and one very important item is addressing truancy. We have a truancy problem, and that's basically all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ms. Claire, what do you plan to do different than what the incumbent is doing now?
My goals for this position, if given the opportunity, is that exactly, working with the schools as far as truancy and behavior issues, giving them the opportunity to have somebody else take the slack away from them and have them focus on educating more than having to deal with issues that having to do with behavior and truancy. I also have a lot of interest in getting things done at an appropriate time. Our citations need to be kept up to speed so people don't randomly get something from way back and don't remember. Transparency, availability, where thus far every house that I visited, I have given them my private personal phone number, my email. I do expect to answer phone calls as they come in. I have been introduced with the situations from the sheriff's office where they are lacking in assistance from the JPs to get a situation, done. The JPs most of the time, 99% of the times, have to approve that, so they need their signature. And whatever time it is that I get that phone call, I plan to assist and do my job at that point. I've also looked into, like Mr. Zapata was saying, programs for the children that are needing probation time. Instead of throwing them out to go cut the grass or pick up trash, send them somewhere to get educated and get some experience where their time will be of value and they would learn something other than feel worse than what they already do. That's about it. I mean, transparency, availability. I'm a very passionate person, and I love people. I love Zapata, and I'm here for your service, to serve you. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Ms. Claire. Commissioner Elisondo. I'll repeat the question. What do you plan to do different than what the incumbent is doing now?
Well, what I would do different is what I'm doing now. Be out there with everybody, with the community. As a judge, you are the chief management, the emergency coordinator. So be out there when there's an emergency out there in the community. Be up for it, right and center. That's what's one of the changes that I want to make sure that I continue doing what I do now. If there's an emergency, but be out there. One thing also that I would do different is there's no I in Commissioner's Court, no I in this community. There's only we. So what I would do different is we work together to make the changes that our community needs. And I want the opportunity to be able to do that for you. Thank you.
Yes, there's, for rebuttal, Judge.
Yes, as far as being out of the community, I am available on a daily basis. When that horrible freeze of last year, I worked the phones, was out there with the folks, was able to convince AP at that very difficult time to at least light one circuit up for our community. I mentioned and urged him to do that because, as we all know, most of Zapata is on electric, and so we had no power, no gas, no food, and they were able to get us on some power on the second day, which I think was a lifesaver for all of us. As far as I and we on the court, I think it's important that we try to work together, but sometimes when we don't agree on exactly the path forward, I am going to speak up and speak out against it. So that's when I become an I. Certainly this year, I was very disappointed with the court, given the limited funding that we have, to go ahead and give themselves a 20% raise at a time when other communities are suffering, taxpayers are suffering. So yes, I became an I, and I voted against it, and I was proud to vote against it because if we don't control the I's and the we's, it becomes a we, and the whole court is a we, and that may not be all
Well, to start off, the I, yes, because we gave back our money. Most of us gave back the money that was given to us that we voted for, the pay raises. We gave it back, then I came back and hired 4 positions, which we voted for. We voted for it because if I'm going to give back my money, or if all the elected officials gave back their money, yes, we gave it back to hire people, I'm going to vote for it. Because if a family has a job, because we gave back our money, good. But we did give ourselves a pay raise, we gave it back, but I decided to hire 4 different positions in Zapata County.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? Anybody? Mr. Garza.
This question is being addressed, do I know that any one of you here, or sheriffs or deputies, but it's in regards to drugs in this community. This small community of Zapata is getting worse for the last 15, 20 years. I've heard and I've seen kids in school that have drugs. So what would each and every one of you would do to see if we can improve this service being rendered in the school system to teach our kids to not to do drugs, or check to see if some of the persons that are in there are providing them the drugs? What would each and every one of you have in mind to do some changes?
Okay, so the question is, what changes would you make to try to keep drugs out of our community? In the school district as well. Commissioner Elisondo?
Well, I know that the school cannot work alone, or the parents cannot work alone. I think we as the county can work together and do programs, have programs for the youth. As a county, I think all the elected officials should go to school, talk to the teachers, talk to the principals, go attend PTO meetings, conferences, and the county can actually work together with the school and see what's going on and see how the county can help the school and the parents to fix this problem that we have. Thank you.
Going back to what I said earlier, working with the school, finding out the student was caught in school with drugs, becomes a case, the JPs have to deal with it, and that's where I want to look into. I have already searched around, and like Mr. Garza said, there's a lot of agriculture programs that kids can be involved in, and they can be taught that there's more to drugs than they think. Maybe at home they don't have that availability, whether they come from a broken home or just simply the way economics is right now. A lot of parents, both the mom and the dad, are working, so not always can they be there 100% for their child. After they become teenagers, most parents tend to let the child, care for themselves or attend to whatever they need to do, and are not, they become negligent of what really a child needs, and that's to know that their parents are there 100%. So that's where I would like to help them in valuing their life and letting them know that there is people and there is programs available to let them feel that their life is worth more than throwing it away to drugs.
Thank you, Mr. Avila.
Yes, sir. Drugs have been around for a while, especially in school campuses. I was there for a long time, and they did exist, but to my understanding, not at the point where it is right now. I think a good alternative would be to work with counselors, with security, and with the fellow principals and people in charge to push and come in harder on these kids that are messing with them and taking them to school. Because a lot of these kids, they sell it, and maybe it's a source of income for them. But in either case, I think we should work closer with counselors, teachers, principals, administrators, and try to arrest this problem. At one point when I was in school, we had dogs coming in once in a while, and they came in, they sniffed all the lockers, and sometimes they would find stuff, and it was pretty effective because at least it was a random thing, and they would come around when they would least expect them. But somehow, I don't know the scenario right now. I don't know whether they're still doing that with the dogs, but I do know that there is a problem. We do have a problem, so we need to work with counselors, advisors, and people that are right there on campus to make sure that naturally, if I was elected, I'd try to start from elementary grades and start teaching these kids, or at least advising them of the harms that drugs can bring to your life and to your parents and everybody that surrounds you. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Mr. Avila.
Basically, it boils down to the same thing that I mentioned earlier, making programs available for the youth to get their minds off, things that they shouldn't be doing. So if we work together and provide programs for the youth, I believe it'll clear some of those issues up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garza.
Certainly, drug abuse is a problem across our nation, and no different here in our community, and it brings a lot of heartache to families. I think programs that the school is offering is very worthwhile and can make a difference in a young person's life regarding his situation. I think on the bigger picture, I think as a county, we have engaged with the governor, with Operation Lone Star, which is bringing significant law enforcement and military to secure our border. I think if we hamper their ability to easily get drugs across, certainly make them less available to our community and possibly expose less children, I think that will be a win for us. I hope to see a noticeable difference in the next few years as this operation is ongoing. We've got close to 1,000 soldiers being the eyes and ears along our border, and the DPS and the Sheriff's Department has also taken a strong stance on illegal drugs coming in our community. but it takes a community-wide effort, and it's a disease, once addicted, and certainly, like I mentioned, will bring a lot of heartache to the families.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Morales.
On that same note, making sure that our students, our urban structure is targeting the youth to keep them off the streets. Okay, that's gonna be the key. As a principal, I remember having my round table. You would bring your students in. You would talk about what's going on out there in the school, because you learn a lot from the students. They tell you what you want to hear. This is happening, this is not happening, this is what we need, why we need it. We don't need this, sir, because it's just a waste of time. It's better we bring this. We can try to bring in something like that through the Boys and Girls Club, through counseling, making sure that the kids know that it's okay to come out and say, you know what, we don't want drugs in our community. We learn a lot from our kids. All we need to do is listen to them. And I know that as a commissioner, and having those plans in place and listening to all these students, I know that we can put a little dent, if not completely stop the drug use, but we can put a dent. If we save one kid, we already succeeded.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Ms. Morales.
Well, nothing can rob a community of its kids like substance abuse. This is a space that I'm real comfortable in. I was the CEO several years back of a nonprofit that provided services to homeless folks who have gone through treatment and who were in recovery. And it was a year-long program, and they had to commit to a lot of rules to go through recovery and so on. I won't get off into the weeds with that, but what we started in our program, so the folks who had been in recovery for some time became mentors. And we started a program where those folks who had been sober for a good amount of time would then be, we collaborate with local high schools and have them go in to speak to the kids that have got in trouble or have been in drugs and everything. And we found some really good results with that. And I don't know that would be that hard to implement, to get some of these folks to come in and talk to them in the schools. Number two is not always thinking about a clinical solution. I'm a firm believer that addiction, and whether it's drugs or alcohol or other types of addiction, is because there's something missing inside the person, the child or the grown-up or what have you. And so because of my faith, I feel like that we need to make sure that our kids know about the love and the grace of God. And we need to not be afraid to talk to our kids about that. I know oftentimes when I've gotten in situations where I feel like I failed as a parent, I tell myself, you know, I prayed for them, but I didn't pray with them, right? We need to make sure that they know about the love of God, and that also that there is grace in abundance that comes with that. And then number three, on the supply side, I think that there should be $1,000 rewards for folks to turn these dealers in. They're coming after our kids. And people in this room right now, in your community, you know who they are. Turn them in, right? Help the law enforcement out. So that's my thought on that.
Thank you. All right, with Mr. Willie Vasquez. Are you here? Okay. You can read out a statement for him. Vasquez? Okay.
Good evening. We made it to the end. I'm really impressed with the turnout. I'm from Laredo, Texas. My name is Sarah Smith. I care very much about my community, and we are your neighbors, and I feel very privileged to read out the resume, if you will, of the candidate that I'm going to read about. This candidate is running for the congressional seat Your current congressional representative is Henry Cuellar, just so you know. And so the reason that I feel privileged to read about this candidate is because I feel that he really represents me. I feel like he's one of us. So please hang on for like just 2 more minutes. I'll make it short and sweet. I have it written out. So without any further ado, this is for Willie Vasquez Ning. We ask for your support. Please visit his website, and if you don't have it, you can come see me. I'll give it to you at the end. Okay. Ooh, I'm nervous. Willie is a business and community advocate and philanthropist, a small business owner since 2003, and a master peace officer serving San Antonio and South Texas in law enforcement since 1993. While with San Antonio Police Department, Willie was a patrol officer patrolling District 28 and detective investigator working undercover in the Repeat Offenders Program on cases such as narcotics, poverty, crimes, and surveillance on murder suspects. And Willie was a special federal deputy marshal assigned to the U.S. Secret Service Task Force for over 7 years, working on cases ranging from organized crime to money laundering and collaborating with the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, on large narcotic cases. For 4 years, Willie was the Chief Criminal Investigator and Chief Administrative Officer at the Bexar County Criminal District Attorney's Office, where Willie led the investigative teams for preparation on cases for criminal prosecution and collaborated with 62 local law enforcement agencies with Bexar County as well as state and federal agencies. Willie partnered on overseeing a budget of over $36 million. Willie's multifaceted training ranges from emergency response management, cyber investigation, and command staff leadership to SWAT management, active shooter, police canine training, narcotics, dangerous drugs, child abuse prevention, family violence, and mental health. A recipient of multiple awards and recognition for his public service, Willie's footprint can be seen throughout his work, spanning decades of serving the public in law enforcement, advocating for small businesses as a small business consultant, raising awareness for education, and providing scholarships, as well as serving the community through nonprofit work, ranging from the arts, cancer, children, the elderly to homeless, animal welfare, and public safety, such as free active shooter training and free self-defense training throughout Texas. Willie has a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from Wayland Baptist University, a Master's of Public Administration from St. Mary's University, and Willie is near completion of his doctorates of philosophy in organizational leadership from Incarnate Word University in San Antonio. There is a quote, "Where there is no public safety, there is no prosperity. I have the leadership experience and training to secure our borders, control crime, and help the citizens of our nation prosper in business and education. I have what it takes back what is ours, because what our citizens need right now is hope for our future, prosperity for everyone, and freedom for all." You have to pretend that he just said that. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. Again, the candidate's name is Willie Vasquez Ning. Thank you.
Do we have any other last-minute questions before we conclude? Yes, sir.
This question is addressed to our county judge. We all, the community of this town, small community, are eager to know from the horse's mouth rather than from the driver or rider itself. The issue of the Zapata County Fair Organization issue of whether there was some mention about the fair being run by Intocable. He presented in the meeting saying that he would take over, and at the time was the President Mendoza. He refused to step down, so this question is addressed to our county judge, so we can hear it from him to see what is the real thing about it.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Judge Rathman.
Mr. Garza, yes, as we have heard, the 50th anniversary of our beloved county fair is right around the corner. I was not at that meeting, Mr. Garza, so I don't have first-hand knowledge of what occurred at the meeting. So I have heard exactly what you mentioned, but I cannot confirm because I was not at that meeting. But I did, the Intocable group did reach out to me. Initially, the County Fair organization, which is a private group, it's a nonprofit, that gets tremendous support from the county because, of course, it's the main event for our citizens. Our kids benefit greatly from their animals and their projects. And there was some statements made by the Fair Association that the fair was, as far as the music aspect of it, was going to be canceled this year. I did, like I said, Intocable did reach out to me and said, told me they would be interested in providing the entertainment at no cost to the county or to their organization, which the county, we do not fund the county fair. We fund it indirectly or in kind through the use of county-owned facilities. And we support it with labor, manpower, and of course it's a big event, and there's no discussion about the county not being involved on a supportive basis. But I don't know the final agreement or the final decision, what was reached. I was not there at that meeting, but my understanding is that the fair, according to some of the flyers and publicity that has been going on, will move forward and have a full fair this year. As far as the entertainment, I'm not sure as to what that will entail or which groups. But from the publications that I've seen and the postings, apparently it's back on. I want to touch on a question, on your second question you asked a few moments ago on our lake levels, and certainly that has been a sore spot for me as county judge and as a citizen of Zapata. You know, I'm part of the Region M Water District Water Board, which covers many counties in our area. I do attend their meetings on a quarterly basis, and all water issues are discussed, and especially the use or non-use of waters in the whole system, the Rio Grande system. I remind my fellow board members that no community or no citizens have sacrificed as much as our grandparents or our parents did back in the 50s when the lake was built. We lost our homes, we lost our ranches, land, all in the name of progress. This lake was going to retain water, provide economic benefits to our community, and it was sold as such. Well, reality is that because of over-demand on the system and droughts, we find our lake empty most of the time. And over 70 years of sedimentation, the river's flowing, it's bringing in dirt. We basically have no depth in the lake where we're at, on the upper reaches, the northern reaches of the lake. I have had discussions with our Congressman Cuellar and also have made contact with the Texas Farm Bureau. There has been a study made about the possible dredging of the upper reaches of the lake, and that would, and I'm pushing Congressman with this infrastructure package that was approved in Congress, that might be a way where at least we'll have some depth where we're at, because currently it's all mud. I've mentioned to anybody who listens, and I've written letters to the Congressman. I recently wrote a letter to our Senator Sapini and our state rep about our quality of water, that you would think Zapata County, home of Falcon Lake, that we'd have great access to drinking water. We struggle to bring water to our homes. The cost of treating our water is tremendous. And the reason being, and I make this argument at the board meetings, is I understand if there's no water in Amistad or in Falcon, well then, you know, we'll have to deal with it. But currently, the level at Amistad is 55% capacity. Here in Zapata, at Falcon, we're at 17%. And that's intentional, and that bothers me. because the Water Masters, which is a state-run agency, TCQ, decides what releases are made. And he's stating that since Taco Lake is a shallow lake, large in area, the evaporation is much greater than in Amistad, which is much deeper and more contained. And my argument is, well, if you didn't intend to store water in Falcon, why did you make us leave our homes? Why did you make us sacrifice everything? And now the main thing is they don't want to store water in Falcon. So we could have more water. Right now the level is at 260, which is 260 feet above sea level. Conservation, the normal level is 301 feet, so we're 41 feet low. That at this level, and I make the arguments, our hotels, our ramps, they're all out of the water. They have trouble getting access to the lake. It becomes a very dangerous lake. There's no easy solutions, but I'm working on, if we can get at least a dredging project to deepen what has silted over 70 years, I think that will be beneficial, and I'll keep working on that.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, can we get a round of applause for all these candidates? Thank you very much. Zapata News and Amistad Home Health feels it's important to bring these issues to the forefront. They want to make sure that you, the voters, are well informed. Remember that early voting begins Monday, February 14th and ends Friday, the 25th of February. Election day will be on Tuesday, March 2nd, the 1st, and this will conclude the forum for tonight. Thank you very much for being here.